here at Plymouth River School in front of the gingerbread display because we're dealing with a little snow issue. It's wintertime in Hingham, and as folks are fully aware, we've been dealing with record snowfalls recently. And as a result of the accumulating snow over the past 4 or so weeks, we've encountered a structural issue in a portion of the building here at PRS that we discovered yesterday early afternoon and are addressing today. What began yesterday is when this issue, we became aware of this issue, and I learned about it, and the other school committee members learned about it yesterday afternoon. There were a number of ceiling tiles which fell down in the library. There's also a small area in the main office and a small area in an adjacent hallway. After that occurred, the school administration was notified, the building commissioner was called and came over here to assess what was going on. Luckily it's school vacation week, so the kids aren't here. There was, I think, Chuck Cormier, the principal, and a couple of secretaries who were in the building at the time. They were asked to leave, and we immediately engaged some engineers to come over and start to assess the situation. Essentially, there is some small areas of the steel structure that have been compromised by the weight of some of the snow. Some of the footage you'll show, particularly in the library, shows the ceiling well opened up and sagging considerably. That was done by folks to get at really where the damage is and to get a sense of what the damage is and assess it from an engineering standpoint. So my primary goal for talking to you now and getting this message out to folks in the community is so that folks aren't alarmed and that they get the accurate information. When this story broke yesterday, there was a release sent out to the press by a media consultant who didn't talk to the school department or myself ahead of time, and there was some unfortunate language used which characterized the situation as a collapse. And as we all know, you have a mental picture of what collapse means, particularly in the wake of the Lincoln building last week or so. So we wanted folks to understand that we're not talking about a cave-in or a major collapse of Plymouth River, but rather some limited, discrete areas of structural compromise, if you will, that we're addressing from an engineering standpoint and also from a manpower standpoint in removing the snow from the roof. The plan began yesterday with an engineering assessment of the compromised areas. We engaged Gale Associates, who's done a lot of structural engineering work for us in the past and was involved in the assessment of the middle school 4 years ago when we had that issue there. So those folks came over and started assessing what the problem was, and we received a report which recommended certain course of action with respect to a temporary shoring up of the areas where there has been some structural compromise, and then what to do on a going forward basis. Number one step is to remove the snow from the roof. We've had a protocol in place for a number of weeks. Katie Hartman, the supervisor of custodians, has been overseeing in removing snow from the drains around the mechanical systems and the high drifting snow areas. It wasn't really possible or practical as the snow accumulated day after day after day to remove all of the sitting snow from all of the school roofs in the district, nor did we have any indication that that was necessary. We faced a similar situation 4 years ago at the old middle school, and frankly, the sitting snow wasn't the only contributing factor to the structural compromise of that roof. There were a number of contributing factors that we discovered through an engineering review. So removing the snow is the number one thing. That protocol has been ongoing over the last several weeks. Right now we have crews up on the roof that have been here all day today. We've had the engineers back assessing the other school buildings here at the high school this morning, then at Foster this afternoon. We have crews lined up for today and even tonight to continue to remove snow from the roof. We'll be doing it tomorrow at the high school and the other buildings as well. The next important step is to do the shoring up of those areas where the structure has been compromised, the library, the main office, and that adjacent hallway. We have engineers on site and a company that is prepared to do that shoring work. It's actually the same company we engaged 4 years ago at the middle school, and an engineer who's designing the plan to perform that shoring work. That's going to be ongoing this afternoon and tomorrow. And the goal is to temporarily address the problem from an engineering standpoint so that the building is safe and we can have the kids and the staff back in on Monday. The hope is to have it on Monday, the 23rd. So that work will be ongoing today and tomorrow, and we'll be consulting with Mike Clancy, the building commissioner, who will be meeting with the engineers. We'll re-inspect things once the work is complete, and we'll make a determination if the building is safe for occupation. So 2 stages really. The one I just described, which is kind of the temporary shoring efforts that'll go on over the next day or two, so that we can temporarily shore up those areas of structural compromise and get the building back up and running and get the kids in here. The second stage will come a little bit later, and we'll spend time working with an engineer to devise a plan for more permanent repair of those roof structures. And we'll go from there. I'm not sure what the timing is. We're still kind of dealing with this in a very fluid nature. But again, we thought it was important to get this information out to the public. And just as an aside, Chuck Cormier, the principal of PRS here, sent an email out to the entire PRS community earlier today. Terrifically worded, good information out to the folks. Wanted to make sure that there was no alarming information that folks were getting, that folks understood what the facts were as we had them, as we understood them, and that our primary goal is to make sure that we have a building here that's safe for the kids, and certainly we wouldn't open for the kids and the staff if it wasn't safe. So that communication came from Chuck today. I expect that any moment now, Dorothy Gallo, superintendent, will be sending an email out to the entire school community that kind of goes through in a detailed fashion, now that we have the engineer's report and can digest some of the efforts of the day, can really provide some detailed information as best we have it as of now to the school community, so it can put them at a little bit of ease as we get into the weekend. We still have a lot of work ahead of us, obviously, to get ready for hopefully an opening on Monday, but just let folks have what the information is. The primary concern moving forward is the safety of the kids and the staff in this building, right? If we weren't fully prepared to open this building, knowing that it was safe and having engineers and the building commissioner and the fire department certify that it was safe, then we certainly wouldn't do so. So our efforts this weekend are going to be geared toward that goal, making sure that we do the work necessary to get the snow off the roof, to shore up those areas of structural compromise, and make sure that we have a safe building to welcome kids back after the break. Students should know the facts, right? I think that, I have 2 kids that go here to Plymouth River. I have 2 other kids at the middle school who went through here at PRS, so I'm well ensconced in the PRS community. But the kids here should know that, one, if they're here, it's because it's safe to be here. Certainly we have a full-time adjustment counselor, A.C. Decker, on staff here, who will be available to meet with kids as necessary if there's any concern or uneasiness about being here based on the reports. But again, we wanted to make sure we got out accurate information so that there wasn't, a misunderstanding at all. Folks weren't jumping to conclusions, and the kids could come back and feel safe and know that they weren't, walking into an unsafe situation. Of course, as Doc Gallo says in all of her messages about snow closures and everything else, the ultimate decision lies with parents. If parents don't feel comfortable sending their kids to school, that's obviously their decision. Of course, as professionals, I'm an elected official, we have educators, we have engineers, we have building commissioner, fire, all of those folks. If we weren't all in agreement that this building was perfectly safe and ready for operation to welcome those kids back, it wouldn't be open for them. So we hope that the kids will come back, will understand the seriousness of the issue and what's happened, but be patient while we're under construction and things don't look quite as cheerful as perhaps they do otherwise. Know that we'll restore regular operation as soon as we possibly can. Steps have already been taken to cover up the shelves and the books in the library to make sure that the collection isn't damaged. But folks should know that if they're here, it's because we're safe. Ultimately, it's a parent's decision. Whether it's a significant snowstorm or it's a situation like we're facing here. But ultimately, it's a parent's decision whether or not they feel comfortable sending their kids back to school. But as I said, I think that we're taking every step necessary. We're being, cautious in our approach. We're making sure that engineers are involved every step of the way. We're consulting with the building commissioner. We're in regular contact with the town administrator and the selectmen. I talked to both of them several times already today. Coordinating our efforts with the DPW here in town. Folks need to remember that this is one town and we're a portion of it. And this is, a serious situation that the entire town is working toward. This is one of our 4 elementary schools. There are about 500 kids that go here. That's about 1/4 of our elementary school population, so it's significant. We need to make sure that we continue to work together in a collaborative way to get through this, just like any other setback that we face here in Hingham. So you take a look at this, you get this shot, so you can see there are two beams, one on top of the other, and in between the steel beams are triangular steel structures that are support structures. And if you can see by my poor drawing, the ones toward the end here are bent and not really taking the triangular shape any longer. So that's essentially what has occurred in a few different areas of the underlying structure. So what we're talking about is, if folks know the terminology, we're talking about a drop ceiling, right? So we've got a drop ceiling that is attached by a metal structure, and then there's kind of open space in between there. And I think you may have gotten a shot of some insulation that came out of that open space in between the drop ceiling and the roof structure itself. So this steel structure that I just showed and described is in between that drop ceiling where the tiles fell down and the roof that actually goes out to the sky. Just to reiterate, at no time was there any breach. There was no snow that came down. We're not talking about a collapse or a cave-in. Nothing. There's no snow in the library. There's no snow in the main office. Nothing in the hallway. But we are talking about, a structural integrity concern that's being addressed. I'd just like to thank the crews here. I'd like to thank John Ferris, our Director of Building and Support Services. I'd like to thank Paul Field, who heads up our Building and Grounds for the district, Katie Hartman, the Supervisor of Custodians, Barry Steen from the high school, Larry Babcock from the high school, all the custodians who've really been put to work here. We've hired crews from out of town to come in and get snow off the roofs as well. I'd like to thank Ted Alexiadis and Betty Foley, the town administrator, and his assistant. I'd like to thank the selectmen for their efforts to help us with getting the resources that we needed to address this quickly. DPW, the large equipment that they sent over, I'm very appreciative of that. Mike Clancy, the building commissioner, police and fire who've been responsive as necessary, really all the folks in town who have come together to address this concern. It really says something about Hingham and what we're made of. Folks live in this town, they come together, they work together, they enjoy things together. People move to this town because of the schools, and here we have a little bit of a situation with one of our schools that we need to address, and all hands on deck and everybody stepping up, and it's really heartening to see, and I'm grateful for it.